Hi, and thank you for watching Paintucation's Color Sanding and Buffing. In this video, we will be discussing and demonstrating the reasons for buffing and how to tell what type of paint you're working with. Color sanding got its name from the old days of lacquer paint, when a beautiful show finish was achieved by sanding the paint in between coats to create depth and smoothness in a paint job. The name just sort of stuck, even though most color sanding today takes place on clear coats. Compounding or buffing refers to bringing back the gloss to a paint in a series of steps from a coarse compound to a final glaze. We will be going through several different methods and procedures, including restoring gloss to an old finish, sanding and buffing to remove trash and runs from fresh paint, and buffing for a show finish. We'll even show you techniques that will help you when you're painting your car. Even the best factory and custom paint jobs have flaws, and the ability to use buffing to correct and perfect them will help you through your experiences of automotive refinishing. Now let's go to work. Let's talk about some of the things we'll need for buffing. First thing is a buffer. This is a variable speed buffer with a trigger lock and a speed control. This thing's very convenient because it goes as slow or as fast as you want. We've got 1000 grit sandpaper, which is quite aggressive on fresh paint. We've got 1500 grit for an intermediate cut, and we've got 2000 for the final cut, which buffs up very nicely. We've got 3/4 inch masking tape for protecting your edges. And of course, anytime you're dealing with a piece of equipment that goes more than 1500 RPM, you want to make sure you're protecting yourself. You don't want anything flying into your eyes, so we've got some safety goggles. I use lint-free cloths because it doesn't get under your sanding pads or your buffer, and these are for absorbing. Paper towels will work, but I recommend the lint-free cloth. This is a soft bristle brush for cleaning the compound out of your cracks and crevices. Any soft bristle toothbrush will work as well. This is one of the freebie Bondo spreaders. This you can get for absolutely no cost at your paint supply stores. And I use single-edge razor blades, and I'll demonstrate this. Now here we've got squirt bottles that you can get at any hardware store. This is the one with just plain water in it. We've got a mixture of a little bit of soap mixed in with our water for lubricating our sandpaper. And here we've got a 50-50 mixture of rubbing alcohol and water. This is good for cleaning in several different ways, and we'll be demonstrating all three of these. Now for our compounds, most compound manufacturers have a whole series of steps and a system. I highly recommend you using a system no matter what manufacturer it is. There's a lot of them that are very, very good, but for simplicity's sake, what we're going to be doing today is just breaking it down into 3 easy steps. The first step is a compound, and that's just for your cut. Your second step is an intermediate compound, which takes the swirls and scratches from your first compound out. And the third step is a machine glaze or a hand glaze. And this is the final step in your buffing. First thing we're going to do is clean our surface. We don't want any dust or debris getting in between our painted surface and our sandpaper or our buffer. We're using our water and alcohol mixture, and what this does is lubricates the surface so it doesn't take the dust and grind it into the top of the paint. You want to use the utmost care in dealing with your fresh paint. What you want to do is determine the type of surface that you're buffing on. Some surfaces do not react very well to buffing at all, such as single-stage metallics. There's an easy experiment to check this. What we're going to do is fold our paper into thirds like we do to color sand. Using our water and soap mixture, let's get a little spot wet, and just gently sand. And if you can see, the color of the sanding water is white. Now that indicates that it's a clear coat, because it's a black surface, so obviously you're not getting any black pigment. You've got white sanding water, so you can guarantee that that's a clear coat surface. With this hood, we're going to be doing a couple of different things. One half is going to be for buffing for a show finish. The other half is just going to be for normal trash removal. So we'll take it and divide it down the middle. We also want to use our masking tape to protect our edges. You want to catch about 1/8 of an inch or maybe even 1/4 of an inch around your edge, because that's where the paint is the weakest and the film build is the lightest. It's always a good idea to protect your edges. You can use fine line tape, or you can use 3/4 inch masking tape. But the buffing wheel will grab this edge and tear it right off of the panel, and you'll end up with a paint redo. So a little care on the front side, will guarantee that your results are exactly how you want them. With this diagram, I'm going to show you what paint does on a corner. This corner here will represent the top edge of a fender. Your paint film build looks like this. And this right here is why it's important to protect your paint edges. The film build bubbles up on the top edge and it gets very, very narrow right on the peak of the corner. So even though it's a corner, the paint is still really, really thin on there. So this right here, you're getting a very minimal amount of film build, and that's why you've got to protect your edges. The Meguiar's 1500 and 2000 grit paper is designed to be used wet. We've got a little container filled with a little bit of soapy water. The 1000 grit also responds well to wetness, and it also helps clean the grit out of the paper. Makes it last a little bit longer. A little bit of dish soap in that water helps it as well. Now we use our squeegee or Bondo spreader to tell where we are as far as how much we've sanded. But you want to make sure that your edge is perfect, that it doesn't have any burrs on it, otherwise you might scratch the paint. So what we're doing is just dressing the edge. Our sandpaper's wet. This is one of those little things that I've learned, how not to make some mistakes. You can feel it, and you can tell when it's smooth. All right, we're ready to go. Again, we're going to keep our surface clean. Now this is probably more trash than you'd get in a regular paint job, but for demonstrational purposes it will illustrate procedures nicely. So we're taking our soapy water and our 1000 grit paper, which is quite aggressive, and we're sanding in a circular motion. The reason for this is because your buffer goes in a clockwise motion, and the scratches are orientated in the direction of the buffer, and it makes them easier to get out rather than linear scratches which you have to buff against. So now we take our spreader with the dressed edge, and you can really see where your trash is. You can see where to focus and where to concentrate on sanding. Now we can really see where we're at as far as what we need to do next. Now you can't always trust your fingertips, and let me demonstrate this. What we have here, and I'm going to exaggerate this, but this is really what happens. If you sand with your fingertips in a linear fashion, look at the marks that I've created. Now this is exaggerated, of course, but you'll end up with that in your surface, and on a shiny black, that's going to show through and look rippled. So for leveling, we want to use a block.